waiting for you, Obi-Wan. The Force is with you, young Skywalker, but you are not a Jedi yet. You have learned much, young one.
Hey everyone, Professor Ratajczak here. Just giving you an update on the final exam. So, final exam is going to work like this. Over 100 points, I believe 150 points here. Basically, my exams are 1.5 times the size of a normal exam. And in the exam, you're going to have to do a lot of things. Okay? A lot of things. So what this means is lots of multiple choice, fill in the blank, true, false, matching, and you're going to have to do a couple of skills in Excel that you're going to have to study up on, like the dummy variables. Don't forget how to do those. Don't forget about correlation. Remember that potato thing from chapter 1, right? You're going to have to study some variables and explain why they make sense or why they don't make sense. So you're going to have to go through some mini things like that. Absolutely. So look at all of your work. I mean, tough, hard to say it, but it's cumulative. It's comprehensive, right? And so I look at it as a final exam as, hey, you're about to leave this class. It's an application-oriented class. It's built on some principles that get you to the operations side of it, the best in practice kind of stuff. So I'm going to test you on those R-squared again. I'm going to test you on the coefficients. I'm going to test you on knowing what a matrix is again, and those kinds of things. So that should be a given, right? And if you think about it, we haven't covered many chapters. We've gone into models a lot deeper than, say, 352. But chapter 3, text mining, that will be a required model. Okay? So for all intent and purpose, you got to study it again. Okay? Number 2, I'm going to give you a choice between doing cluster analysis, linear regression, and random forest. Okay? So you're going to have to do one of those in addition to text mining. Okay? Everything else, comprehensive, cumulative, could be an Excel file hidden in there as well. But those are the big bad boys, right? The text mining is a requirement. And then linear regression, random forest, which is the ensemble models, and then cluster analysis. You're free to use programming language if you prefer. If you want to do R for the cluster analysis, if you want to do R for the linear programming, okay? If you want to use R for any reason to help get to that answer, if you want to plug in, if there's a linear equation or linear question, and if you want to plug it into R, go right ahead. Whatever tool you're comfortable with. Okay? Does that mean everything can be using R? No. But some of it can. Okay? You will have 2 hours. Believe me when I say this, you can do this in 2 hours. Everybody was able to complete the exam last year in 2 hours, even though some of them couldn't complete exam number 1 in 75 minutes. So they got faster. They learned from the previous exams, like, okay, Ratajczak is serious. When he says this program is challenging and it's application-oriented, he means it. Okay? So don't forget what you learned in chapter 3. Right? Practice that stuff up. Practice, practice, practice. Okay? There's many different ways that you can help out your models now that you've learned them. You've got more practice with Excel as well there. So hopefully you looked at those neural networks. Okay, because those are going to come back. I know we just did them, but they're back as well. Don't assume because it was the last lecture we had that I'm not going to cover it. Okay, neural networks is that new thing. It connects all of your models together because, quite frankly, we could have connected a linear regression model and an ensemble model, and then compared the two to say whichever one gives us the best prediction we're going to use. So this idea that we only do neural networks with linear regression, that's because we did that for 1 day for 1 assignment. We could have gone a whole month crossing all kinds of different models together to build a neural network. Okay, It doesn't mean that it's only one model type in order to build a neural network. Okay? So that's that. Show you some other stuff here as well. Okay, so I'm in our website. I'm going over to Final Exam on Blackboard. It's going to open up a Final Exam notes place here. Okay, going to open it up. Enable. So the exam must be completed in time provided. Okay, and being unable to complete the exam in the time allowed suggests you do not have mastery of the material. Okay, it's plain and simple. You don't have mastery of the material. What that means is you might know how to do the text mining model, but it takes you 5 minutes to remember the steps. And there's 10 steps. So there's 50 minutes on the text mining model. Okay? If you keep practicing, you know right away, I need a pivot table, and I need to do the +1, I need to do the ln function, and that kind of stuff, right? That should be automatic. Okay? If that's not automatic, you have not given enough time to practice this material. Plain and simple. And that's what we mean by lack of mastery. Okay? You're advised to finish 5 minutes before the end to ensure all files are properly uploaded. Because I am dead serious about this one. Dead serious. No games. I am not responsible for you incorrectly uploading a file to the wrong question. Okay? You guys are the best of the best. You should not be making this mistakes anymore. You should not be uploading the cluster analysis stuff to the text mining thing. Okay? If you do that, you're going to lose points. Okay? I'm not going to accept it, and if push comes to shove, you're not getting points. Okay? Because it's a simple thing. Don't make that mistake. Take care of your work. Be proud of your work. Be happy with your work. Okay? That includes the whole shebang. You're not going to email your boss the wrong file and have your boss look at it for a day or two and then find out, oops, he or she's been looking at the wrong file. You do that, it's sloppy work, and you're in the doghouse as far as it's concerned at the workplace. During the exam, any tips you ask for hints, formulas, functions, I provide at your risk. If you ask me a question and I give you an answer, it is based on my interpretation of your question. If I ask you, or if you ask me if this is right, if A4 looks right, I'm not going to say yes, it looks right. I'm not going to say no, it doesn't look right. I'm going to say you need to think about it a little more, or I think you're on the right path. Okay? But that does not mean I'm saying yes, I'm giving you any points. It does not mean yes, you're going to earn all 5 points. What it means is you're executing one of what could be many steps in a good direction. Okay? If you ask me for a clarification on a word and you don't and you give a nod based on what I've substituted for you or that giving you a different word and you still interpret that, you're going to interpret that your way. I'm not responsible. Okay? Submitting the exam early, canceling out on the exam, or closing it results in a submission. You're done. It's another one of those sloppy things that I should not have to expect out of you because you're the best of the best. You have gone through so many advanced computer skills and techniques that something as simple as this should not be a problem for you. Okay? There is a question that gives you a choice between using or doing a cluster analysis, a random forest, or a regression model to predict, and it'll be about diabetes for these last two. Okay? There is a requirement. So this is one. This is one thing you have to do right here. Pick one. Okay? How this is going to work is on Blackboard, there will be 2 exams. Okay? One with the basic exam with all the multiple choice, true, false, fill in the blank, all that stuff, and the text mining model would be included in that. Okay? Or scratch that. There'll be 3 exams. One for all the true, false, fill, blank, all that stuff matching. One exam for text mining model, and then one exam based on your choice to complete one of these. So you're going to see an exam file for final exam cluster analysis, final exam random forest, final exam regression model. final exam text mining model, and then final exam true, false, multiple choice, etc. Blah, blah, blah. So you'll have 5 choices to do. You need to do the true, false stuff, multiple choice exam, that's one exam. You need to do the text mining model. These are going to be your choice. You have to pick one. Okay? If you want to use Excel or R or both, whatever, go right ahead. You cannot use a previous file. You cannot use a previous file or a previous script. You do that, and you can kiss your grade goodbye. Okay? You can say goodbye to passing this class. Okay? Or if you're lucky, maybe you get a low D. Okay? Because you'll get a 0 for the entire final exam. I don't care if you just cheat on cluster analysis. It's the whole thing. This is one exam. I'm just, for logistics purposes, putting it into multiple files for you to open so that's clear cut and you're given a choice. I am giving you a choice here out of the goodness of my heart. I could easily require you to do all these and expect that you could whip this up in 15 minutes, this one in probably 5 minutes, and then this one probably take about 25 minutes. So 45 minutes there, this one taking another 45, that's 90 minutes, and then a half hour for the rest. I could easily do that. I'm choosing not to. You guys have worked hard this semester, so take advantage, respect the work, don't cheat, study hard, etc. Finally, in any situation, you're responsible for dummy variables, factoring if you need to do that, data frames, etc. kind of stuff, if you remember R, data cleansing. If you don't like how data is set up, general data cleansing. If I do not ask for 6 clusters, then don't do 6. If I don't ask you to clean 3 dots in a row, then do not clean or substitute 3 dots in a row, okay? Very specific on that. But if I do ask you something like clean 3 dots and a space, and you don't do that, you will lose points. I am very specific in the text mining question. Some of you didn't do it. That's why you lost points last time. You lost 5 points because your model was not correct. It was not the spec. Okay? That's a serious situation in our work. Is if the client asks this, then do that. They have good reason for that requirement. If I ask you for a list of 3, this is a pet peeve of mine. If I ask you for a list of 3, don't give me 4, hoping that at least that extra one might be the right answer. I don't take BS. That's why some of you have been getting 5 out of 10s, because it doesn't pass the BS snuff, right? You know that when you're writing it. I've been in school too. I know what the tactic is. Write as much as you can, hoping that some of it sticks. But not in business intelligence, okay? Because we are very specific, detail-oriented, precision-oriented people. If I ask you to speak about accuracy, you need to be extremely thorough and correct. You need to talk from the business perspective and the data science perspective, or one or the other, presuming the question will ask for that. Okay? So I'm not asking for you to tell me how you did it in Excel. Okay? So you need to stop doing that. I wrote in your feedback for many of you that wrote this stuff. When I ask you about accuracy, don't tell me that you did COUNTIF and then you divided the COUNTIF by this or that to get percentage. I don't need to know how you did it. I don't need to know how you did it. Okay? I hired you to do it. I don't need you to tell me the 38 steps that you did in Microsoft Excel. What I need is, if the answer is 47% or you get an R-squared value of 91%, don't just tell me that it's good. Tell me what R-squared, or why you chose R-squared as a confidence, and then just tell me that it's good. You don't have to go into, well, here's how I calculated R-squared, blah, 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 boring, yada, yada, okay? That's not what I'm looking for there. What I'm looking for is, can I use this model and why? Okay? So, think about it. Be thorough, but don't write too much, right? So I'm going to show you something here that few professors show you. Just give me a sec. Okay, so I'm back on this page here. It's called Bloom's Taxonomy. It'd be nice if people were to share this with you a little sooner. The fact is, we don't have to. We're the teachers, right? We're the ones that assess your work based on proven principles on how to teach this material through real world knowledge, expert research, things like that. But here's our secret sauce. If we go look at this pyramid at the bottom, this is your 100 level stuff. Can you remember a fact? Can you remember that World War II started in the 1930s? Can you remember that Hitler was in charge of the Nazis when World War II started? That's easy peasy stuff. Sure, you got to study it, might have to have flashcards, but can you recall facts and basic concepts? Okay? Understand. Can you explain, identify things? If I were to give you an R squared of 0.22 and say that this is a model that predicts diabetes, you should be able to say we should not use that model and then discuss why. Okay? You should recognize that because diabetes is in the medical field, in the healthcare field, we need extreme precision. You should not be satisfied with a 0.22 R squared because you understand that R squareds, need to be higher. And then why? Okay? So that's understand. That's kind of your 200, 300 level class that we get into. The rest of this is 300. Evaluate and create is 400 level. Apply. So use information that you've learned to new situations. So that would be as simple as I asked you to create a pivot table. Okay, you should know how to create a pivot table from one of your 200 level classes down here. Okay, but if I ask you to create the pivot table so that you can create a matrix, right? A matrix for cluster analysis, that is applying information to a new situation. You've learned how to do something, so you're demonstrating a technique. You're executing a technique that you've learned. This could also be me teaching you linear regression and then having you do it 5 times and put it together with a neural network principle. I've taught you how to do that. You've never seen the data set before. The data set might not have had any coefficients completed, so you know how to do that. That'd be a great example of apply. You remember how to do things, you understand why they're important, and then you're able to apply. Okay? Next is analyze. Okay? So can you compare 2 different models and identify the best one? Can you compare a model and identify how it could be better? Okay? So you're drawing conclusions amongst different data sets. If I were to give you 2 different data sets about the same customer, can you put them together to get a better picture? Evaluate. Can you defend why a model is better than another model? Can you argue against my opinion? Can I mess up in class and will you catch it? Wink, 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 wink. I've done this to you all the time. Can you recognize, remember principles, understand, apply, analyze, and then evaluate a data set that your boss gave you to be able to say one of the 3 things? A, we don't have the data. 2, we have too much data. Or 3, we have the data, but I'm not qualified to use it. Okay? Can you identify, if I give you a data set and say, I want you to predict the women that are pregnant in this model. Okay? Predict the women that are pregnant in this model. But guess what? What if I don't give you gender? That's what evaluate means. Can you go back to your boss? Can you defend your judgment and say, boss, I cannot do this model because you did not give me females, or you did not give me gender? Or better yet, what if I gave you gender, but they're all males? Technically, that's an overfitted model. If I'm asking you to predict, if that's the question, predict females that are pregnant, and all I did is gave you males, you cannot do what I asked. Can you evaluate that? Can you study everything you know from this pyramid? Can you understand all of that and do a good job on critiquing, weighing in, identifying the proper support, whatever it is, evidence, etc.? Not everybody is doing that well in this class on that. Most of you are. But again, when you get here, when you're defending or judging or supporting, you're bringing up Excel stuff. Like, here's what I did in Excel. That's not what we're at here. We're talking about, you didn't give me enough data, you gave me too much, this model's overfitted, there's homoscedasticity in it, it's not independent, those kinds of things. That is the evaluation criteria on that. So go look back at that independence homoscedasticity stuff. their multicollinearity stuff, because that's where it's at. That's what we're talking about when we evaluate as well. And then finally, can you produce a new work? Zach Algren's model that we worked on. I didn't give him a single thing to do that work. He did the GUI. He identified the macro to wipe out all the choices. He figured out the if statements. He figured out the color coding. He figured all of it out. Okay? I would argue that you cannot do this in a timely fashion. Okay? You need more practice at it. You've gotten a long way in this course, but next semester we're going to worry more about the creating. Okay? 400 level class, you're going to be doing some more creating. I'm going to give you some direction, and you guys and gals are going to be doing the creating. 400 level course makes sense why creating is at the top, because it gets more difficult, or we expect more out of you. In order to create something, you need to remember some principles, you need to understand them, you need to be able to apply them to multiple situations, analyze the best outcome, or analyze information across different models, evaluate, provide support, and then from there you should be able to create something brand new. Okay? So you should be able to go to kaggle.com or data.gov and literally download a file and play around with it. There are variables all over the place. Okay? So you should be able to play around with that stuff like this. Okay? That's what we talk about at the create level. Okay? So just let me ask you a question. How many of you are doing that right now? How many of you are literally going to data.gov and kaggle.com and other sites, downloading data for fun, just to create new practice files, just to create more, learning, more of this stuff down here, applying it to new situations? I know one of you is, because that person makes it a point to talk to me everywhere he is on campus to talk about those things. Okay? Is he doing it for points? No, that's my point. Creating original work, you should want to design something. You should want to assemble and construct. You should want to formulate and create things. You should want to investigate. Okay? That's an easy A. If you can investigate and keep asking questions why, but also answer them, discover them on your own. Instead of saying, hey, you didn't teach us this, or we only did this one time, you should be looking at that stuff. You should be going to YouTube. You should be looking it up at the Microsoft site. You should naturally be curious about these things at this point. Okay? You should not only rely on what I present in class. Right? Should not only rely on what I present in the book. This is a different major. It's a fun major. We've already got one of your students or one of the classmates that's got a job. Another one's coming in. So it's happening. But I just wanted to show you this triangle here and how it all works. Okay? This is 102 level, 100 level stuff. This is that stuff on the exam where you can finish it in about 2 seconds, because there's some of those questions, right? We call these warm-up questions, and McCollum calls them eye candy. What it means is these are so easy. These are questions that are so easy. They're meant to be at the beginning of the exam most times to get you warmed up to the exam. Okay, but then as the exam progresses, that's why you get a lot of your essay questions at the end, because we're asking you to evaluate something, analyze a situation, create a new model, right? Things like that. So hopefully this was helpful for you. Again, I love this class. You guys are doing really well in this class. I have no concern that you're not going to be able to pass the exam. But keep in mind it is 1.5 times the normal exam, and you will have to do text mining. Okay? So don't ask me, Professor, do we have to do it based on this? Do we have to do it based on this? It's cumulative. It's comprehensive. So I've helped you out before by giving you, you only have to do this part, that part. The training wheels are off, right? It's a final exam. Do you know how to do this material? Okay, so our exam's Saturday, and we shall see you then. Okay, very good.